what's the sense from everybody in terms of, is now even an appropriate time to market? Because I think there was initially some hesitation there in terms of, wow, things are very serious. We don't want to be seen as kind of trying to capitalize on everything that's happening. And then there's also the financial component where, if MSPs, it's weird. Like a lot of them had extremely good months in March, where a ton of project work. A lot of it depends completely on what you're talking about, who their clients are and what verticals. But you have some MSPs that are doing extremely well, but you have this overall sense of, is there a recession coming? Should I be making cuts right now? And so there's this overall question of, how bullish do I want to be in my marketing right now? And I thought you guys had some interesting points about that.
Yeah, I think my point would be, I would probably be doing more on the back end than anything else, shoring up my website, more content, blogs, SEO, and, kind of preparing for the future. And if I was looking at being stronger in a particular vertical, I'd probably focus some of those efforts on building out content related to that vertical, or expanding my number of verticals. So if, for example, I was caught in a situation where I had mostly restaurants, but I had the ability to pivot into other verticals, I'd probably be putting some energy into developing out the marketing materials for those verticals.
Yeah, and the other thing that I think gets lost a little bit is that, like, just because you're loading content right now, like short order content, I think the value of that is high right now. Like, people want relevant information. They don't want the same thing you've been running for 6 months, but there are ways that people can approach it from an evergreen stance to where it still has an SEO benefit. So for an example is, like, at MSP Growth Hacks, like, one of the first weeks that I personally started seeing all these mass emails start to come into my inbox about COVID this, COVID that, we're with you, that kind of thing. One of the first things we did was put out an article about sending mass emails to customers. It didn't mention COVID, it didn't mention anything, but it was really relevant to what people were doing at the moment. That article will now index and will generate traffic for us for probably the next few years, even though we were able to benefit short term from that. But because it was positioned as evergreen, it was just a very simple topic from a simple standpoint, but it was relevant, So approaching it that way too is to where you're going to have to create content. You're going to have to take the educational route here. How can you do that, but do it smart to where there's some long-term benefit?
Right, that's a really strong SEO way of doing things. And like I said, yeah, not being stuck with attaching your content to a particular point in time.
Mm-hmm.
It's such a good point. I mean, we had this discussion internally within Ninja and what we're doing. I mean, we had some things planned on the marketing calendar that we postponed because we're like, wow, COVID's taken all the oxygen out of the room. We have to be focused on that right now. And it's an interesting question of, when is that going to turn? Have we reached the point for some people, I'm sure already, where there's a little bit of a backlash or a saturation there? So I think it's a really interesting idea to think beyond the specific circumstances we're in and thinking about okay, what is the reoccurring thing? It's kind of like how a lot of people look at the work from home stuff. These are all trends that, yes, totally exacerbated and accelerated by COVID, but we're going on before that, right? And will continue to go on after everyone stops saying the word COVID.
Right. Yeah. It's almost really digging into the behavior behind it and what's going on, and not necessarily the cause of the behavior. So forget about why people are doing it. Just focus on the fact that people are doing it, and hopefully they're going to be doing it again, so that content can serve a purpose later on.